Believe it or not, this is the lectionary reading for today. The lectionary being that published several passages that are published each week for all preachers in all churches to preach on. Some churches pay no attention to them. I frequently don't pay any attention to them. I have something to say that's not on the lectionary. This happens to be the lectionary reading today for Christ the King Sunday, because this is a reference to Christ the King. It seems an unusual reading for this time of year, but actually the Easter readings, Lent and Easter readings, are always appropriate any Sunday. Two other people also who were criminals were led away to be put to death with him, with Jesus. When they came to the place that is called the skull, they crucified Jesus there with the criminals. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they cast lots to decide who would get his clothing. And the people stood by watching, but the leaders scoffed at him, saying, "He saved others, let him save himself, if he is the Messiah of God, his chosen one." And today we are raising the question that we raise now and all during Advent. We'll be singing that hymn, "What Child Is This?" It's the question that is raised throughout the life of our Lord. What child is this? Who is this person? Who is this man on the cross? Who is this babe in the manger? He saved others. Let him save him else, if he is the Messiah of God, if he is God's chosen one. The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine and saying, "If you are the King of the Jews, save yourself." And there was also an inscription over him which read, "This is the King of the Jews." This is the word of the Lord for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Pilate put that there because I believe the Gospels get it right when they talk about the politics of the crucifixion. And Pilate did not want to get in trouble with anybody. That's the way politicians are, unless you're Marjorie Taylor Greene and you get in trouble with everybody at the same time. Pilate was trying to get himself off the hook. And the Jewish leaders, not the Jewish people, but the Jewish leaders, Jesus had many followers among the Jewish people. It was a whole misconception of the church for blaming Jewish people for his crucifixion. That's absolutely ridiculous. It was the powers that be who put him on the cross, primarily the most upstanding and outstanding members of his society who wanted him dead. And Pilate was angry that they had pushed him to the point that he had to crucify somebody that he really did not think was guilty. He had not done anything to offend the Roman laws, and yet he was put in a position where he saw no way out but to crucify Jesus. And in retribution, he put this message on the cross above Jesus, which said, "King of the Jews." And the religious leaders came to him and said, "Don't put that up there. Put that he called himself the King of the Jews." And Pilate said, "What I have written, I have written." And so it remained up there, this declaration of the truth that he was King of the Jews. Not the full truth. It didn't say that he was king of everybody. It didn't say that he was king of the universe, okay? But it did get it partly right by saying he was the king of the Jews. I have a very high Christology, very high Christology. It's just a fancy word for who we think Jesus is, the study of who Jesus is. And if you have a low Christology, he was a peasant revolutionary who took up for the lower classes of people and ate with people that others thought he shouldn't be eating with. And this is the message you'll get from some theologians. Others will say he was an extraordinarily good man with a very high ethics, but he was, like all of us, just a human being and nothing more. And when he died, his bones resided in some tomb, and he afterwards got lifted. That's not me. I have a very high Christology, and you choose your word. I don't know what your favorite word is. Is it Messiah? The Messiah is the Hebrew word. Christ is the Greek word for the same thing. Both of them mean the anointed one. The one that Israel had been waiting for ages, the Son of God, or you can choose Jesus' rather humble definition of himself. He called himself the Son of Man, which is pulled from somewhere in the Old Testament scriptures, the Son of Man. He never called himself the Son of God, but he went around calling God Abba, which is like a word daddy, and therefore people began to call him the Son of God. We understand him to be the Son of God. Let's go farther. I see him as the human face of God. He was God incarnate in the flesh, the incarnate God, the God who is with us, Emmanuel, God with us, come into this world. That's what you call a very high Christology. You can't get any higher than identifying Jesus Christ with the God of the universe, and that's where I am Christologically. You can write that down. I may not can spell it. So that's where I am, and I have good reason for this. I've talked to you before about the three primary indications that Jesus is Lord. That's the name of today's sermon. And the first of those is that he was risen from the dead. And I believe there is enough evidence to say that he was indeed risen from the dead. That's the first thing. The second thing is he got God right. And he happens to be the only one of the ancient philosophers. He's not just a philosopher, but I'm putting him in categories. Philosophers, scholars, writers, Plato, Aristotle, all of those guys. He is the only one who got God right. He is the only one who spoke of God's unconditional love. That's the second thing. Jesus raised from the dead. Second thing, the only one to get God right, got him so right that many Christians still don't believe Jesus when he talks about God, okay? Because they don't have a God that is that good and that loving, all right? And the third thing is that we can know what Jesus was because we can know what he is, because as Jesus himself said, my Father is working and I am still working. He is still working. He is still doing the things that he has always done. And people see the guy all the time. They do, in various kinds of experiences. I shared a couple of those experiences with you in the little article that I wrote for the paper this week. People who see Jesus himself in the most unexpected situations, people who have no particular interest in Jesus. One of them I named was the singer whom you've probably, if you know about this singer, either you are a lot younger than I am or a lot more interested in modern day music than I am. Of her woman whose name is Maya, but she goes by M-I-A, M period, I period, A period, who was, she is Tamil, but she was born in London and raised there, and her family was Hindu, not necessarily active. But she had no reference within Christianity. But there was a time when she thought she was going to die. She was in a very difficult situation. And someone came there and she just saw an image of Jesus, and his love for her in that moment encouraged her, and she knew that she was not going to die. And she became, as she terms it, a born-again Christian. And she was afraid she was going to lose all of her fans, but she had no choice in the matter, because she said, when you're in trouble, the person that comes to save you is Jesus, okay? She had no expectation that Jesus would do anything for her or that he even existed, and yet there in her hour of need, he was there. And this is what so many people find out, because he's real. Because he is Lord, because he's still working in the world. And you may say, well, you've never run into him, but you will someday. And you never know when that is. It may be when you leave this world, and it may not be. Because let me tell you something. My understanding, and this should give us a sense of humility and awe, that he is here now in this place, fully in all of his resurrection power, which might bring up the question that Paul asked: if God is for us, who can be against us? I want to talk to you about a young woman, a young Jewish woman, whose name is Heidi Barr. I don't think Vicki Giese is here today, so I can talk about her. I watched Heidi Barr's witness again last night, talking about her near-death experience, and she reminds me so much of Vicki Giese. Don't tell Vicki I said that. She may be watching today. But she reminds me so much of Vicki Giese, both in the sound of her voice and in her looks and in her delivery. I don't think Vicki would mind me saying that if she saw the young lady. The young lady is probably 50 now, something like that. She had this experience when she was 16. She loved horses. Her family background religiously was not much. Her father was an atheist and her mother was an agnostic. She was Jewish by heritage. And she did have a New Testament because she knew that would bug her mama and daddy. Because it was their understanding that if you even touched a New Testament, it would burst into flames or something if you were a person who was so foolish enough as to touch a New Testament. So she kept it in her room, but she had never opened it. It was just there to bug mama and daddy so that they would know that she had a New Testament in her room. She did pray. From her youngest years, instinctively, she somehow knew that there was somebody out there for her to pray to. And she did pray, even though mom and dad did not pray and did not want her praying. She did pray. She also loved horses, and she had a horse named Heather. And she and her two sisters had gone out. They were just going to wait until she rode her horse, and she was going to go off riding her horse, which she rode bareback because she didn't have a saddle. She loved horse riding. And she, when she got on the horse, she saw this man and this woman, husband and wife, who were arguing over another horse who was known to be ornery. And the wife was saying to him, do not get on that horse. That horse is going to throw you and you are going to be hurt. He said, no, I can handle horses. She was listening to this whole conversation as she was sitting there on her horse. Well, he won the argument. And he got on the horse that was known to be ornery, and he rode off. And Heather was sitting there, wondering what was going to happen. Well, she went for her ride, and she had a really good time, and she was heading back to the barn, but she stopped for just a moment at a raised area with a small cliff beside it where she could look down and kind of see the world from her horseback. And then she heard horse hooves coming, and she knew what that meant. The horse was running, and she knew that the ornery horse had thrown its rider, and the horse was coming her way. She thought, well, when that horse sees my horse, that horse will just stop. It's just in horses to do that. But the horse saw her horse, and the horse just kept coming. She said, well, that horse will go by my horse, and I don't have time to get off anyway. What can I do? Says, you just go by my horse and I'll be all right. Unfortunately, no, the horse not only came so close, it clipped her and her horse. And when that happened, the horse reared up once and came back down. It reared up the second time, and the second time, Heather, the horse, reared up. It threw her off, and the horse fell on it, and she remembers the horse landing on her chest. The horse got up and started running back to the barn, her horse did, but she was there, and the moment that horse hit her chest, she was out of it. She was out of her body and looking back down on herself there on the ground. And after a moment, she looked to the left, and there was someone else there, and it was Jesus. She doesn't know how she knew him. She said to him, I know you. You're Jesus. And he laughed a little bit in assent. They're going to do a lot of laughing together, Heidi and Jesus. He said, yes. Now, what's he doing there? Even people who are interested in near-death experiences, and this infuriates me or irritates me. Even people who are interested in near-death experiences sometimes don't go so far as to ask, what in the world is Jesus doing there? George Washington isn't there. Abraham Lincoln is not there. Muhammad is not there. What is Jesus doing there? Especially since she's a Jewish girl. She's not even a Christian. She had no concept of ever running into Jesus, okay? And he's there, and he's obviously there for her. Soon after that, a life review begins. Her whole life begins unfolding before her. And there are things there that she's not happy with. She has taken some drugs. She's hung out with some people who were not doing good things. She sees all of those things, and Jesus sees all of those things. And he does not shake his finger at her and say, you should not be doing that. You should not be in that situation. He is simply there, and he is loving her, and she is saying, I should not be doing that. I should not be in that situation. Yes, there is death, and then there is judgment, but we are the ones who do the judgment. We are there, and we know the truth about everything. We know what love is. We know what right from wrong is. We know that instinctively down within us. Down within us, we know that instinctively. We do that. We have that down there, but we don't listen to what we know. But in that moment, of course, she knew it all. And he just loved her. And she, in some instances, condemned herself, but he was there to love and forgive. There were other instances in her life where both of them just laughed together about things she had done and things she had gone through. When she was through with that experience, now let me remind you what we're talking about. We're talking about who Jesus is. She is now experiencing, this Jewish girl, who Jesus is. He lifts her up in some way and holds her, and he takes her. She said the only thing she could call it was, by the way, I believe her absolutely without reservation. He takes her flying. I have in my own mind the image of Superman and Lois Lane, okay, from the old Superman movies. He takes her flying. She no longer has shoes on. She has, her body does, but she doesn't now. She has no idea how she's dressed, but has something on, but she doesn't have any shoes, and she can feel the rush of the air, but they're growing at an incredible speed. And at first she can see the earth, she sees things that are familiar to her, but then she seems just to be out in space somewhere. And Jesus says to her, and this is one of the neatest things, I can't tell you how many near-death experiences I'm familiar with, and this is one of the neatest things I ever heard anybody say about what Jesus says. He says, "This is cool, isn't it?" Okay. Now, we find out in numerous of these experiences that Jesus is a great guy to be with, okay? He is a joyful person to be with. He speaks in our language. This is cool, isn't it? And she said, it is cool. And then they come to a portal. She said, I know in a lot of these experiences, there's a portal that people can't pass, but this portal opens for them and they go through it. And Jesus takes her to the Father. She knows this is the Father. Takes her to God, who is infinite. She can see that God is all over, but somehow she ends up feeling that she's in his lap and being held by him. And this, she said, is the most glorious experience she's ever had in her life. The love that she has been feeling from Jesus, and now from Jesus and God the Father, the same love, because they are one in love, because they indeed are one. And she is simply there rejoicing. And then there is like an opening in the image of God, and she is able to see. He shows her into what must be the heaven that she's headed for. And she sees, first of all, the grass. She says it's green, but it's not like any green that we've ever seen. It's like the grass that we have is a poor imitation of this grass. It is green beyond green. It's like the original green. And she can see every blade of it. She said if she had had time, she could have counted each blade, and she can see every single blade of grass, and all of the grass is moving. And then she looks a little farther, and she sees a field of flowers. And the flowers are colors that she has never seen before. Now, I can't understand this. How can there be a color that we've never seen before? I read this and hear this in so many near-death experiences. I saw colors that we do not have on earth. I'm not sure how that's possible. I can't imagine what a color that we could not even recognize would be, but they see colors that they've never seen before, and that was the flowers, and the flowers also are moving. And then beyond that is a great forest of trees. And she says she could see every leaf on every tree. It seemed to be a great distance, almost an infinite distance, and yet she could see the veins in every leaf. She must have not had cataract surgery lately. She could see everything, and they were all moving, and she said there was music playing, and their movement and their music was in continual praise of God. And then, in the midst of all of this, Jesus says to her, Heidi, you've got to go back. She says, no way. He says, you've got to go back because you did not die. She says, I'm not going back. Now, I can't quite imagine this either. Arguing with the Lord of the world and with the God of the universe and saying, no, you want me to do this, but I ain't doing it. But this happens so often in these experiences. She says, no, I'm not going back. This is where I belong. Jesus said, you must go back. You did not die. She says, I'm not going back. And he says, yes, you are. And he took her. And there was no cool flight this time. The moment he laid his hands on her, she was back at her body on the ground. She says, I can't go into that. I cannot fit into that. And he pushed her. And she was back in, but she was not acclimated. She said at first Jesus was in there with her, helping her to kind of acclimate herself to her body again. She didn't know how to move anything. She didn't know how to open her eyes. Eventually, she was there by herself, and she figured out how to open her eyes and say one word. The ranch foreman was bending over her, and he was praying, and she said, Charlie. And he said, thank God. Well, they hauled her to past the hospital. He did. He threw her on his horse. Bad idea. Hauled her past the hospital to her house. Bad idea. She was at home overnight. Next morning, she could not walk. She was badly injured. They did take her to the hospital then. And she got very poor treatment, she said. When she got out of the hospital, she was on crutches. And she said, really, she should not have recovered from her injuries, that her recovery was miraculous. But she did recover fully from her injuries. And she is now what she calls a messianic Jew. That's a Jewish person who believes that Jesus is the Messiah that they had expected all of their lives. That Jesus is Lord. And there's a whole group of people who call themselves Messianic Jews. Another group calls them Jews for Jesus. There's a whole group of Jews who are always, and I know they are a pest to other Jewish people, they are proselytizing Jesus Christ. And the truth is, Heidi is out telling her story everywhere she can. I've seen 3 or 4 versions of it on YouTube, and she's written one book, and she's working on another one, telling what has happened in her life after this experience, how it has changed her life. Well, of course it changed her life. Of course it did. She said it was really interesting, though. And I shared this part with my Sunday school class this morning. She said it was so interesting in her life review, Jesus was right there in front of her and beside her as she watched her life unfold. And she said she noticed that when she was praying as a child, there was Jesus right there with her, receiving her prayer. She said it was so funny to look at her life review and see that Jesus was there with her all of her life. She had never known it. And then to have Jesus right there personally with her in that moment. You know, that's where you and I are. We have him always with us. From where we are, which is often a dark and hurting place, all we have to say is Jesus. All we have to say is help. All we have to say is, I love you. I know you love me. That's all we have to do because he is always there with us. They say life comes with no guarantees. We have this guarantee. That the one who was there when we were made is with us all of our lives and will be with us forever. That's the guarantee. So our prayer has to be, Lord, help us remember. not just when we're sitting in church and somebody been talking to us about it for 20 minutes, but remember it when we're hurting and when we're afraid and when we're confused. Remember it when we lost the job, or remember it when the relationship goes south. Remember it when there's not enough money. Remember it when we're worried about the kids. Remember it when somebody in the family is sick. Who is right there with us? The one who runs the whole show. The one to whom we belong. We do not belong to ourselves. We belong to Him. You cannot lift Him too high. You cannot make too much of Him, because He is all. He said to her, He said to Heidi, all roads lead to me. Whatever road you're on, you're going to get to Him. Now, I hope a lot of people from other religious faiths are not listening right now, but you're included in this too. He's there for you. And Apostle Paul tells us the time will come when every knee shall bow and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord.